Everybody's talking about the NAR settlement, but what does it mean for you, right? Stick with me and we'll cut through the details.
You better get fired up.
Guys, happy Monday. NAR settlement's been everywhere in the news. And personally, I think it's going to be a great thing. I think it's probably going to be great for strong agents. It's going to be great for buyers. It's going to be great for sellers. The one I guess person that I don't think it'll be great for is average to weaker real estate agents, right? And I'll discuss why a little bit later. I'm going to get into the buyers and sellers first and how it's going to impact you and my perception. Again, this hasn't rolled out. We don't have the paperwork. We don't have the legal guidance yet. We don't have each individual brokerage coming out and telling us what they think we should do. Nothing's been put in writing yet. So we're still waiting to kind of hear everything be finalized. But I'm going to give you my opinion based on what we've seen so far. And I'm going to tell you why I'm thinking what I'm thinking, right? So let's talk about the two major things that are going to change, right? A lot of people are saying 6% commissions are going away. That's like the number one headline I'm seeing right now. And you know, maybe they will. I suppose there's absolutely an opportunity for them too, but I'll tell you my perception and I'll tell you the why behind it, right? Currently, when you list your home, let's say you list your home with me and let's just say we say 6%. I would love to keep that whole 6%, but that's not how it works, right? That 6% goes to my broker. It doesn't even go to me. And then the broker splits that commission in a way that me and you, the seller, have agreed to. And it's roughly, if not exactly 50%, right? So maybe it's, hey, we keep 3 and we pay out 3, okay? And then the broker's going to take a certain percentage and give me a portion of it. And then the buyer's agent's brokerage is going to keep that commission and give a certain portion of it to that agent, right? So I bring all that up because there's two sides of a commission. There's the list side and there's the buy side, right? And so what this settlement has done has essentially said, we're going to, although there's asterisks all over this, we're going to get rid of the buy side commission. It is now upon the buyer to pay their own agents, right? And so sellers can say, woohoo, I'm only paying my side, which is great. It's fair. I feel good about that. Awesome. But there's challenges with this, right? So what are the challenges? The challenges are a lot of buyers. And when I say a lot, I'm talking 30, 40, 50% of buyers that I'm coming in contact with, especially in the lower price ranges, right? Say that $300,000 to $500,000 price point. They're already coming up with, 3 to 5% down at a minimum, maybe more. And they're coming up with, 3 to 4% in closing costs. To then have to come up with another roughly 3% for their realtor is a lot, right? So the question becomes, are they going to move ahead without a realtor? Because, man, I could go through story after story after story of people who have done that and put themselves into financial binds, right? Or maybe they think they're negotiating, but you're going up against somebody who negotiates every day, right? Everybody thinks they're an amazing negotiator. Go talk to a brand new agent. They think they're an amazing negotiator. But until you've done it for years and you've read books and you've gone to different classes and you've actually role played it and you've looked at data to see what works best, right? It's not as easy as you think it is. So a lot of people think they're getting a sweet deal and they're really not. Another thing is, a lot of people will successfully close on properties and they'll say, well, I didn't have a realtor. Everything seemed to go smooth. And maybe it did, but maybe you put yourself in harm's way 3 or 4 times. You were at risk and you didn't even know it because it didn't come to fruition, right? If you'd had a realtor, they would have locked that thing up in your contract so that if this thing happened or that thing happened, you would have been protected. Now, luckily, that thing didn't happen, so you never had to deal with the consequence. But man, when that consequence does hit, it's going to be hit hard. So you are not allowed as a seller anymore or as a listing agent to tell the buyer's agent the portion of commission that they will be receiving because they are now purchasing your home. Right? So sellers were paying that out, which would offset the cost for buyers, which would bring in a whole pool of additional buyers to purchase your home. It would increase your purchase price, right? I mean, that's the thought behind it because your pool is getting bigger. Obviously, you're going to have more interest. You're going to get higher amounts of offers and higher prices. So now they're getting rid of that. You cannot advertise on the MLS anymore. In fact, it's not an option. You cannot do it. You cannot say on the MLS, hey, this is how much we're paying out in commission. So they're already putting loopholes in place around this. I've heard of, third-party websites coming up that'll state what the commission payout's going to be. I've heard that you can state in the broker's remarks that, hey, the seller's willing to pay X% towards buyer's closing costs, and you can use that to cover your realtor. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who that's the majority of the loans through this country, have come out and said, hey, if you have funds being paid by the seller to the buyer for closing costs, and those are attributed to the agent's commission, it will not be a portion that we as the lender allow for your closing costs to be covered, right? So some loans allow you to use up to 3% for closing costs or 6% for closing costs or whatever that particular loan allows. They're saying that that commission portion will not be a part of it, which essentially brings us back, in my opinion, to exactly the same deal we've got right now. It's just I'm going to have to make an extra phone call or an extra text to confirm it in writing with an agent, right? It's a little bit more work for the buyer's agent. It's a little bit more responding in text from a listing agent. And I'm sure we'll figure out a way where you don't even have to do that anymore. But it's really going to be the same. And you might say, well, why would sellers pay out that commission at all? Well, listen, they didn't have to yesterday or today. We haven't hit the deadline yet, right? So if you list your home with me right now, we can list it at 3% and we can pay out $1. You can pay out $1 and you can be on the MLS. And we don't see it, right? You've been able to do it since I've been in real estate. And I would say in all my years of real estate, I have never seen a $1 listing, but that was the minimum amount to get on the MLS. So why is nobody doing it? Because it makes you less marketable, right? This is my opinion. If I were selling my home, there is no way I would put $1 on there right now, because I know that the amount of agents who would be excited to show my home, the amount of effort they would put in to try to keep the deal together, them trying to get an offer to actually look good for me would be very low. They don't want me to accept that offer. They want to go look at another home. All of that would be very low. And the buyers that I do have that are interested, a lot of them would come unrepresented because a buyer's agent would not work with them for $1. So now I've got to do extra work, which if I'm not willing to do, you're losing that buyer because their offer is going to fall apart because they don't know the deadlines for inspection and the appraisal and the survey and contacting title and making sure that underwriting's looked at the package and you got clear to close on time and you're hitting the loan approval date on time. And there's a lot of different deadlines in there that you've got to meet. And there's a lot of different contractual knowledge you've got to have to keep a deal together. So the odds of me keeping all that together by paying out $1 are pretty slim, right? So what I perceive happening is we're just going to have to communicate more as agents. Hey, what are your sellers willing to pay out? They're willing to pay out this. Okay, great. Let me talk to my buyer. Okay, great, right? Now, there is an additional piece to this, right? All buyers, to be able to look at a home, are going to have to be in a buyer-broker agreement, which essentially says, I'm your buyer's agent, you're my buyer. And in there, it will also state the compensation that I receive if you close on a home. Now, the verbiage in there states, I will receive, let's go back to 3% as an example, right? I, as your buyer's agent, will receive 3% if you close on a property. And right above it, it says, you will be responsible for paying your agent any amount below, which is the 3%, minus what a seller or a listing agent is compensating your agent. So now, if they're paying me 3%, you're off the hook. You don't owe anything, right? If they're paying me 2%, you would owe that 1% difference, right? So here's the good and bad of it. I think some of the bad is you're going to have a lot of sellers, not a lot, but I'm guessing 10%, 15% of sellers for the first 6 months are going to come out and they're going to try not paying out a commission to save. It makes complete sense, right? And I don't think it's going to go well. I think we're going to have a lot of buyers suing and a lot of buyers losing because they'll come in unrepresented. They'll get themselves into a bind. They'll lose an escrow deposit, or they'll purchase a home where they didn't fully understand what they were getting into, and they'll go to sue somebody and they'll say, hey, you weren't represented by anybody. You represented yourself. So if you're going to sue somebody, you got to sue yourself, right? And that's going to be rough. And that's going to be the next set of deadlines over the next 6 to 12 months. And because of that, I think you're going to see a lot of education from brokers to agents saying, hey, we can't keep doing this. You need representation, and buyers are going to start to buy into it more, right? And they're already buying into it. Like I said, I think this is going to be 10, 15% of sellers, but you're going to see it. We're also going to see buyers who are working with agents, and I'm really thinking about our veterans out there, right? They're coming in, they don't have any cash, they want to buy a home, they're afforded the ability to buy a home with 0% down, and all of a sudden we get there and they've got to pay an additional 3%, right? Well, right now, the way that it's stated, I cannot, as a real estate agent, charge a commission to a buyer, which means that buyer has to go in with no representation. Now, you might say, well, the listing agent can help them. Sure, but this is a transactional state, right? You're a transactional broker, meaning you represent the transaction, not the buyer. So when you come in as a buyer and you don't have representation, you're not in the position you would be in had you had your own realtor. So you're at a disadvantage because of that. Now, I can't imagine, although it surprised me it's taken this long, that they're not going to fix that little loophole, that little issue right there. What's the solution going to be? I don't know. Based on what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have done, I'm guessing they're going to state that you can charge a commission, and it's probably going to be capped at something like 3%. And maybe it's got to come from the, I don't know. I don't think they could do that. It'll be interesting. I don't know what they're going to do. And no matter what you come up with as a solution, there's a rebuttal for it, right? There's a problem with it. So it's just which problem do they want to take on? So I think for sellers, it might be a little more confusing. Like, hey, I'm seeing these settlements. Can I do it? Can I not do it? Absolutely, you can. The question is, do you want to do it? Right? Are you going to actually save money, or are you going to whittle your buyer pool down so much because you're not attracting anybody that you end up netting less money anyway? That's the question, right? And that's where a good realtor should come in, and they should do the math for you. They should do the research for you to show you if they're valuable or not. Here's where I think buyers win big time, and honestly, sellers too, indirectly. Forever, to be a listing agent, I have had to be comfortable talking about two things. Number one, what is my commission, right? I've had to have the confidence and intelligence to be able to discuss openly what my commission is. Number two, I've had to be able to express what my unique value to you is. Because if I do things that every other realtor does and that realtor's 1% cheaper, why would you use me? Go use that guy, right? Use the cheapest. The only time you're going to pay more is if they do something bigger, better. They've got more expertise. They can show you that their negotiations get you more money on average than the difference in commission you're paying. They can show that they sell homes faster on average than the other people sell, and that's a big deal to you. If they can't show you that, everybody's going to go with the cheaper one, right? It makes complete sense. So for sellers, it makes sense that listing agents are still going to be listing agents. But on the buy side, you've got buyer's agents out there who are attracted to being buyer's agents, in my biased opinion, because they do not feel comfortable talking about commissions, charging commissions to their client. They don't personally feel a lot of times that they are valuable enough to earn that commission or to ask you for that commission, and they don't have their value pitched down, right? They'll tell you, I work for my clients, I work really hard, a bunch of subjective things. But you as a buyer are now going to be able to demand, and you should, because the commission's on you, that agent shows you their unique value. What do you do? How is it valuable to me? And how does it differ from what other agents offer? If you're not showing me something unique and different, next. So I'm seeing all the average to below average agents are going to be out of this business in 12 to 24 months. Who does that favor? Everybody in the business, to include buyers and sellers. Because I can tell you, when deals fall apart, not always, but a lot of times it's because newer agents just don't know a particular law, or they didn't know they had to check, on this with the taxes or that with the insurance or whatever it is. It's a rookie mistake that I made when I was a rookie, right? But it's going to get rid of a lot of that. It's going to be tougher to get in and be a successful agent because the learning curve, the ability to present yourself and communicate your value is going to be more challenging. I think that buyers are going to find that they've got better representation. 78% of buyers work with the first agent that they come in contact with, right? So even if that's a rookie agent, they've never sold a home, maybe they're not even from this county, you're working with someone who's going to put you in a worse position than a well-seasoned, can negotiate their butt off realtor. And you might not even know it because you don't even interview agents. Whose fault is that? I mean, literally, I suppose it's buyers' faults, but at the end of the day, I would say it's buyers' agents' faults, right? I always, when I'm talking with a buyer, because I know they might be shopping other agents, I hope they are. I want them to know, hey, I want to tell you a little bit about what I do that no other agent does, because I want you to see the value you're getting in me. I don't just open doors and write contracts. There's a lot that I do for you, and I want to sit down and show you all those bullet points so you know what you're getting out of me. So when you want to go see a home, even an open house, you're going to have to sign an agreement with someone. Okay. Now, I've seen a lot of different things go around. I've seen, and I think this is probably the smarter, more professional answer. Hey, we're going to put you in a 6-month contract. Here's what we give you. Here's what you give us. If you purchase a home, we're going to make X percent. If the seller's paying it, then obviously we're going to take it off of that. If they're not, then you can decide if the home is worth it or not worth it. Right. And then you're going to go through all those value points, and it either makes sense to work with that agent or it doesn't. But you're going to be forced to have that buyer consult up front. A lot of agents are not having that buyer consult right now, and buyers are moving forward uneducated, and they're not in the position that I believe they should be. Right. This will force agents to level up their game, which is great for buyers. It's great for buyers. I also think that on the opposite side of it, you're seeing like Zillow right now is coming out. And in my opinion, I don't think their business model has anything to do with value at all. It has everything to do with plowing a ton of money into advertisements. And whoever picks up the phone, we know we got a 78% chance that that person's going to work with the first person they see. Because we don't have value to pitch, let's pitch a lack of commitment, right? That's their pitch. So their pitch is, hey, we're going to give 7-day agreements. It's not exclusive to us. You can get out in 7 days. There's no commission attached to it. Again, this is my personal opinion because they're not giving a lot of value. Now, that's not a knock on them, right? Walmart does not really have a ton of value. You can go to literally any other store and you're probably going to get better quality goods. Well, we'll just stop right there. You're going to get better quality goods. What do you get at Walmart? You get price. That's what you get. And it's the same with a lot of different things, right? You either pay more and you get more for it, or you pay less and you get less for it. So it's not a knock on them. It's just a different business model. But I think you're going to start seeing that. And you're going to see buyers, agents feeling the pressure to give you that consult that you deserve. And you don't even know to necessarily ask for, right? They're going to have to step up their game. They're going to have to talk about commission and what makes them uniquely different. So for agents, how do I see this impacting them? Again, for listing agents, I really don't see it being a huge impact. The only two things I can think of is, number one, they're going to have that discussion with a lot of sellers who've been reading the headlines, and they're kind of, I don't want to say manipulating, but they're all making it sound like, hey, you don't have to pay 6% commission anymore. You're going to pay 3% now. And that's just not what I think is going to happen. In fact, I'm 98% sure that that's not what's going to happen. It will happen to a few people. But once they see the results from that and the lack of people coming through the door, the deals falling apart at a greater rate, the higher amounts of lawsuits, I just do not see that standing. And that's something that, again, for $1, you could do right now and nobody does it, right? I also think it's going to create, possibly, unless they fix this, and maybe being able to offer seller pay buyer's closing costs and the broker's comments, maybe that'll solve this. But you're going to have to maybe pick up your phone more, respond to emails more, respond to texts more, with people asking what your commission payout's going to be, right? For a buyer's agent, it's going to be a lot bigger. For a buyer's agent, you're going to have to be good at that consult. You're going to have to be good at pitching this person on why they should be working with you instead of somebody else. You're going to have to ramp up your confidence, right? And you're going to have the discussion about commissions that a lot of buyer's agents shy away from. So again, I think this is phenomenal for everybody. I think if you're an agent listening to this and this scares you, A, it's not a big deal. Like I said, I just don't think it's going to have the impact that a lot of people think it's going to have. And B, I think you should look inward and say, why does it scare me? Do I not see the value in myself? And if you don't, that's okay. It's normal. But start to sit down with yourself and say, why, if I were the buyer, and I'm not licensed, would I use Mythical Me, who is licensed, or would I use another agent? And if you'd use another agent, why? What does that agent do? What do they have? What is their expertise? How do they negotiate? What books have they read? What events have they gone to? What certifications do they have? Whatever it is, what do they do for their buyers that you don't do? And then you need to slowly start to build that. And as you build those steps, you'll start to build confidence and you will believe in yourself. And you will either do that or you will continuously in the back of your mind quietly tell yourself the story that real estate's gotten more difficult. And you'll say, I am valuable, but I'm no more valuable than any other agent. They can all open doors. They can all write contracts. And buyers are not going to see value in you because you don't see value in you. And you're going to lose your clients, and the business is going to be very, very challenging for you. And again, that's where I think 12 to 24 months, we're going to see a big exodus, specifically of buyer's agents getting out of the business. These are all my opinions. They could be right. They could be wrong. We'll see. We'll certainly see in 12 months if I'm right or wrong. But again, I think the big winner here is professionals in the industry, because it's going to become more professional and we're going to have stronger agents on average. And because of that, I think buyers and sellers are going to have better experiences, right? It's just going to be a better, more educated, more confident, more thorough experience for a buyer and a seller. So guys, there are my thoughts. If you've got thoughts on this settlement that differ from mine or that agree with mine, or maybe it's something completely different that I haven't thought of, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. You can even put them up after this video is over. Thanks for joining me, and have a fantastic